There was a lot this morning that was critical of Sir Keir Starmer and the modern Labour Party. John McTernan, who was Tony Blair's former director of political operations, said it's not for the Labour Party to ban a woman with Diane Abbott's record to stand for the Labour Party if that's what she wishes to do. This kind of briefing, it's aimed at humiliating her, and this is disgraceful. It's just utterly disgraceful. It's a process that has been designed not to resolve issues. It's a process designed just to drag things out and humiliate Diane Abbott. And whoever's responsible for this should hang their head in shame. It looks like it's crass, politically motivated, and designed to hurt her. It's nothing more or less than a kind of factional disdain. And all this comes from the point in April last year when Diane Abbott suggested that Jewish people do not suffer racism all their lives. She also dragged into this travellers and Irish people. And she had been the shadow Home Secretary, of course, and she wrote in The Observer that white people with points of difference encounter prejudice, but they've not been subjected to the same racism as black people. It's true that many types of white people with points of difference, such as redheads, can experience this prejudice, but they are not all their lives subject to racism. In pre-civil rights America, Irish people, Jewish people, and travellers were not required to sit at the back of the bus. It's an interesting point of view, and it's worth discussion, and to open up a subject for discussion and then find that you are excoriated, expelled, expunged, excised from the party that you've given your entire adult life to is, I think, deeply unfair. We're told that the Labour Party was trying to give Diane Abbott a soft landing so that she could go with grace, but in fact, the way the briefing itself communicated the duplicity of that briefing makes it clear that nobody was really comfortable with what they were doing. And Dawn Butler, who's another Labour MP, said that I do feel that there are some people around Keir, not Keir himself, that maybe have watched a bit too much of Scandal or The West Wing, and they think that's how politics is done. That isn't how politics is done. And I think in that she's quite right. And it's really nasty. No, it's really nasty. I think the Labour Party will have questions to answer, particularly about Sir Keir Starmer's honesty, because he said on Friday that the investigation into Diane Abbott's case was ongoing and not resolved. But in fact, we now know, so we're told in the newspapers, I'm using the word we because it's available to anybody who opens that newspaper, incidentally. So we're told in the newspapers, it's not specific to me, we're told that Diane Abbott's case was resolved in December. So what has happened between December and now, 6 months, is simply some sort of humiliating wait. This was a political decision taken by top rankers in the Labour Party to punish Diane Abbott. It's been confirmed that the Labour investigation into Diane Abbott's case was concluded months ago. And more than that, she'd already had a formal warning, and so for Keir Starmer to say this case was ongoing is nonsense, I'm afraid. It's disingenuous, and that is rather sad. But I've already said there's a link between Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson in the way that he's throwing people out of the party. Maybe there's another link in terms of truth.